everybody has to have an alter ego, right? And I've been thinking about what my alter ego would be, and I think I have an alter ego. His name's Mr. Unlimited. You gotta be unlimited. You gotta have a thought process of being unlimited. So when people ask you, what you're thinking about or what you want to do in life or where you want to go, you gotta be unlimited. Tell them, I'm unlimited.
Here we go.
Here we go indeed. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you guys on this jam-packed Monday show. We got NFL. We got Major League Baseball. Barry Grant Jr. is going to be stopping by in about 10 minutes to discuss his Mets signing Juan Soto. I know he is quite excited about that. Get his take. He's going to be on in about 10 minutes. He's a big Mets fan. Juan Soto signing a gargantuan deal with New York to stay in the city but go to Queens. Also getting to the college football playoff. A lot of controversy surrounding the fact that SMU got in over Alabama. As far as I'm concerned, the order of the rankings aside, I think they got much of that wrong. But as far as who got in, the committee absolutely got it right to a T. Get to that in about 45 minutes from now. Talk about the Chiefs. Talk about another close win from Kansas City. Get to the Lakers with Barry. He's a big Lakers fan. What else we got? The Jets are eliminated from playoff contention. Who could have seen that coming? It's almost like I called this like back in December when I said verbatim the Jets, rather. Jets, Mets, Nets, all these teams rhyme in New York. Okay, but the Jets are on the playoffs. Get to that. Week 14 NFL recap, and at the end of today's show, we got Bengals, we got Cowboys. Get predictions for that at the end of today's show. But first, oftentimes you want the game on Fox or CBS at 4:25 to be like the game of the day. And they didn't disappoint in Los Angeles, California at SoFi Stadium because the Los Angeles Rams beat the Bills in a great shootout type of situation game, 44-42. Matthew Stafford was fantastic. Quick take on the Rams. I maintain they're the best team in the NFC West. They're going to win the division, run down Seattle. They'll beat San Francisco on Thursday. Rams are in great shape. Puka Nacua is unguardable. We know what the Rams are. Wouldn't want to face them in the first round, say that much. Matter of fact, I might pick the Rams, even against the Vikings or the Packers, as well as both are playing. But the story is Josh Allen. And listen, folks who watch this show know that I've been, I think, relatively consistent on Josh, but some don't feel that way. My mindset has been this. He is a no question, no doubt, you are a moron if you argue that he is not a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. Josh Allen is absolutely that. But my thing has simply been this. He's great. His upside, man, he's amazing. And his downside at his lowest points, it's kind of a roller coaster with Josh. Well, now he's giving you upside, is Josh Allen, without really any downside. That's the scary part. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, if you're a Bills fan, it's great if you're a Bills fan. It's bad if you're a Rams fan. When Josh Allen, after putting up 6 touchdowns, no turnovers at all, by the way, 6 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 3 on the ground. Josh was unreal against the Rams. The throw he made to Mac Hollins in the fourth quarter, right over the shoulder of the DB. I mean, there's not many guys that can make throws like that. The guy's an all-time talent. And I have always been on the mindset, Mahomes is the best. That's indisputable. There's not a legitimate case you can make anybody currently playing is better than Patrick Mahomes. You just can't. I've been the mindset the last few years. I don't know. Only guy that's beating him that's currently playing is Joe in the playoffs is Joe Burrow. And Joe's so great. By the way, Joe's having an amazing season. Problem is defense stinks, and Joe has a health problem. I've always had Lamar Jackson at number 3 because, while he also can't beat Mahomes like Josh Allen in the playoffs, well, he does have 2 MVPs, and he's kind of a unique player. At this point, look, so's Josh Allen. He very well may win league MVP this year. Certainly Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore for the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley appear to have a Josh Allen futures bet on MVP. That's all I can figure with their idiotic play calling. What a surprise. But this guy's number 2. And I think at this point, it's indisputable. That doesn't mean I don't love Joe Burrow. I mean, he's awesome. Scared to death when my Steelers face Joe Burrow. But when he's hurt, nothing against Jake Browning, good backup, not that scared. Lamar Jackson, I'm not scared at all as a Steelers fan because he stinks against us, bad against the Chiefs, and bad in the playoffs. If the knock on Josh Allen is can't beat the Chiefs, Well, I mean, who does? Not many people do beat the Chiefs. Not in the playoffs. Only Cincinnati and a team quarterbacked by Tom Brady does. And by the way, Josh has been, obviously everybody remembers the game in 2021, but Josh has been mostly great in those 3 games. Not as good as Mahomes, because he's not as good as Mahomes, but he's been great. He's had playoff games against New England where his team doesn't punt. Josh if we're going to label Josh as like a postseason choker, that's just not true. He's been amazing in the playoffs. Can't say that about Lamar. You can say that about Burrow. You just don't know if Burrow's necessarily going to be healthy enough to get you there, or to be to have a sustained health to go through the rest of the season and be ready to go come January and maybe February. Is that facing a team like the Los Angeles Rams? This is a big game for Los Angeles. They're trying to keep pace with Seattle for the division, because we saw with what Seattle did to Arizona. Had the Rams lost, they'd be 2 back with 4 to go. They'd be in dire straits, and 2 games back of the last wild card spot with Washington. This is a big game for the Rams. If Buffalo Bills fans, as I predicted, they were going to make their presence felt at SoFi just like they did the last time these 2 teams played 2 years ago. But the fact of the matter is this: when you have a guy on that side of the ball, this is why Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford were sort of on aggressive on 4th down in the 4th quarter. This is why Matthew Stafford is slinging it all over the yard to Cooper Kupp, who caught a touchdown. Puka Nacua, who was incredible. Tutu Atwell and others. Like, being able to get these guys involved, is Matthew Stafford's like, I got to keep pace with this guy. He's special. He's an all-time talent, is Josh Allen. And listen, what you saw yesterday in SoFi was a quarterback masterclass. There's no other way to classify it. You talk about a Stafford who's obviously not as mobile as Josh, and has never been known for, an ability to like move outside the pocket, make plays. But he's one of the greatest arm talents we've seen. Be able to stand in there, deliver throws on time, on target. Against Stafford, had a QBR of 97.6 on a scale 0 to 100. Stafford was awesome, but he was outshone because he was facing the second best quarterback in football. And I think the thing right now for Buffalo, and this has to be a little bit concerning. This is because I had the Bills at number 1 on Bryce's best 10 coming of the week. They're going to drop. Not that far. They're still great, but they're going to drop. This has kind of been my concern with Buffalo, is that I've felt all season long, this is their best chance thus far to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. This is their best chance to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs team that, while they win, they do win close games, and Buffalo has the roster. They're built to beat Kansas City. They run the football, although not yesterday. I don't know. James Cook, 6 carries for 20 yards. I mean, Josh Allen, folks, 6 touchdowns with no turnovers. I think what's even more impressive than that is those numbers, and he got 21 yards from his run game. Josh Allen was Buffalo's run game. He had 82 yards rushing on 10 carries. He had 82 of the 103 that the Buffalo Bills had on the ground. And so is the thing you get concerned about is situationally, can Buffalo stack up to Kansas City? And that's the concern, and that is what has gotten them beat. Is that late in these games, be it offensively at the end of the last playoff game, not executing down near the red zone. The game before that, where Josh was awesome, the defense couldn't get a stop to save their lives, or a combination of the two the first time they played in the postseason. Is that Sean McDermott? I've called him for years. He's the Mark Jackson of the NFL. And folks know, who watch the show, Warriors fan here, love Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson put the pieces in place to start the Warriors dynasty. Kerr just elevated it. But Mark Jackson came into a desperate franchise, a woebegone franchise, couldn't do anything, and took it to a playoff series win, helped elevate Steph Curry, and then was unceremoniously fired, and then Steve Kerr helped to become a dynasty. That feels like what the Buffalo Bills need, is that Sean McDermott took over a bad Bills roster, a bad Bills organization, gets in the playoffs their first year, then they draft Josh Allen, and they've had a lot of success with him. But the timeout in the last minute of the game was poorly used. It's clock management is so, listen, it's not a simple art. I'm not going to act like it is, but the timeout on the Josh Allen sneak, first of all, calling the Josh Allen sneak to begin with, I thought was a very poor decision. Buffalo could have gotten the ball back with a chance to hit a walk-off field goal. Who knows what would have happened there? But it's the fact that his defense didn't show up to the party. Listen, Sean McVay and Matt Stafford, they're going to cause you problems, but simultaneously, you've got to get a stop at some point. Now, against 7 of those in Buffalo's defense, that came on a block punt. So that's not the defense's fault. It's the special team's fault. But listen, this is what makes this guy so special, is and what makes all great athletes, all the truly great athletes special is what can they do when ish ain't going their way? When stuff isn't going the way of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen more times than not is probably gonna be there to pick them up. They may not win, but Josh Allen, obviously, the last I can argue Josh Allen might have been the best player in football this week. He was nothing short of spectacular, and so I think right now for Buffalo, you're not going to panic. Now you do play the Detroit Lions this upcoming week. That's not an enviable spot for anybody, given how great Detroit is in these close games. But listen, it's at this point, I think it's kind of indisputable. Like Josh is the second best. I fought it for a couple of years. Listen, we understand how successful Joe Burrow's been at beating Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson has struggled, but he does have MVPs. End of the day, by the way, let's look at Josh Allen's numbers. The guy was just unreal. 430 yards, 6 tuds, 0 picks, 117 passer rating, and a 90 QBR. By the way, again, got literally nothing from his run game and Jack Diddley from his defense. So credit to Josh Allen. He was out of this world great. Let's see, do we have it? Okay, so in other news in Major League Baseball, safe to say we got some big news. The Juan Soto sweepstakes came to an end, and Juan Soto signed with the New York Mets. And so I figured, given the occasion, to join the show to discuss his team signing Juan Soto, winning the Juan Soto sweepstakes with a 15-year, $765 million contract. I figured I might as well welcome this individual back. We only get him a couple times a year. But let's welcome back to the show the host of the All of You podcast, Barry Grant Jr. Barry, this feels dumb to ask, but how are you doing?
Listen, I've only had 1 hour of sleep today, and it doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. I'm not tired. I've been happy all day. Doesn't matter what happens at work. No stresses today, man. It's Juan Soto Day. We good. We good on this side. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, I've said it. I've been calling it for a year, and it's so good to know when things come to fruition. It's great. How are you, Bryson? Great show.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for coming on. I'm doing well. And listen, I can relate it. I've had takes in my life where it takes a while for it to materialize, but once it comes, the chickens come home to roost. It is an intoxicating feeling, especially for you with your team, the Mets, who overachieved last season, got to the NLCS, took the Dodgers deeper than the crosstown rival Yankees did, and then beat the Yankees to the punch in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. Before we get into that, let's show the people that maybe some of the baseball casuals what the Mets are getting. There you go. 934 hits, 285 average, 201 homers, 592 RBIs, four-time All-Star, 3-time All-MLB first team, 5-time Silver Slugger, and he won the World Series with Washington in 2019. And by the way, you sent me this stat. Alfred put the graphic together. The guys who have we'll just go and put up the graphic. Guys with 200 homers and an on-base percentage over 420 before turning 26. Jimmy Fox, Mickey Mantle, Juan Soto, pretty good players on that list. So, listen, I think my ultimate takeaway from this, Barry, and see what you think, is Steve Cohen was just not going to be outbid. He just wasn't. Listen, this is one of the richest owners in sports, 21 bill. He's going to do whatever he's got to do to put Juan Soto in a New York Mets uniform. What was your takeaway on the signing?
I think the same thing. I mean, if people don't watch my show, please go watch the All Leading podcast. I kind of detailed and laid this out pretty accurately. It's more about Juan Soto was going to get paid. That wasn't a question. It wasn't a fact of, how much he was going to get paid. I said that he was going to be north of $700 million. Even when Ohtani got signed, I said, Soto was going to get more than that. Why? Because the age, the generational talent that he is, I mean, it was just lined up that way. Biggest thing for me was that Yankee fans and even people who are in baseball, he's gonna go ahead and be wowed by the history of the Yankees, and he was there, he took them into the playoffs, blah blah blah. People fail to realize this particular thing. He didn't choose the Yankees. They traded for him. He never said that, hey, I want to go to the Yankees. They made the trade. They went ahead and traded all their big time prospects. They went all in, kind of, because they should have did more at the deadline because they were a little bit confident that he was just going to, just buy into the Yankee lore and all of that stuff. He chose the Mets over the Yankees because that's where he wanted to go. This is the first time that he actually got to choose where he wanted to play baseball. And he laid out everything. Future, projection 10 years out, owner, front office, players, amenities, everything that you can be able to look at, farm system. The Mets are plus in all of those categories that the Yankees don't have. Right now, all the Yankees have is history. They have Aaron Judge. Respect. Outside of that, there is nothing right now. Where, modern players, I said it on my show and people were like, oh, he doesn't give a shit about Mickey Mantle. He doesn't care about all those. He doesn't care about Babe Ruth. He probably never even seen any stats from Babe Ruth. That's not who he grew up idolizing. He grew up idolizing David Ortiz. He heard about Barry Bonds. He's seen Ken Griffey Jr., I'm sure, and saw tapes. These are the players that Manny Ramirez, the list goes on, right? These are the players that he sees and he idolizes. That Yankee lord doesn't mean nothing to him. He was there, did his thing, had a career year, but now he finally got to choose where he wanted to go. That contract yesterday, or the comparisons between the two deals, just showed you that the Yankees put together a very good offer. That was a great offer. You can't knock Hal or Cashman for that. But what that told me is that the Yankees were the ones that had to overbid for him to even think about going to the Yankees. All the Mets had to do was just be the Mets. If they were where he wanted to be in regards to contract, he was going to sign there regardless. I told people it didn't matter if the Blue Jays came with 850. He wasn't going there. Yeah, no. It didn't matter if the Dodgers came with 710. He wasn't going there. He wanted to be a Met. And I think that this was something that was in the works for a very, very long time, not just this year. I think Juan Soto wanted to be a Met for a very long time, and he showed it last night.
He did, and I remember talking to you on text. I feel like a half hour before the news broke about how Steve Cohen was going to offer $800 million if push come to shove. Like it was it was going to eventually materialize to that. Got a couple comments from my guy Patrick Brown. Shout out to Patrick. He says Juan Soto's seen the Mets' future and wanted to be a part of it. He's the guy and the king of Queens. Mets players and fans have fun. You can see the difference. Always this very true in both fan bases. No, again, and by the way, you kind of hit on it, and I've talked about it so long, is that there's an elitism with the New York Yankees as it relates to, the stadium, which by the way is freaking impossible to get it into. It's brutal. The whole, I mean, like you said, guys now don't care about the history. Barry, there are high schoolers alive today who have never witnessed a Yankees championship. Like we have to remember how long ago it's been. They've won one in the last 2 decades. Been to 2 in the last, same distance of time. So I think it is I think if that is going to the primary aspect of your recruiting pitch, you're going to do yourself a disservice and kind of turn the player off to that. And right now, you look at the Yankees right now. I mean, I did the radio show, Triple Option. Shout out to my guy Asher Moore, and he said I think there's a shot the Yankees miss the playoffs this upcoming season. They missed it when Juan Soto was gone the year before. Okay, you look at that lineup top to bottom. Obviously, the greatness of Aaron Judge prior to October, but Jazz Chisholm, LeMahieu, like good players. I'm not going to knock these guys, but that ain't a World Series lineup, Barry.
No, it isn't. And I mean, look, now they're going to have to pivot, and maybe try to overpay for a Pete Alonso. They're probably going to have to overpay for a Santander. They're going to have to overpay for a Bregman. All of these guys that they're trying to now, try to fill this roster out because they have holes. Even if they would have signed Juan Soto, does Hal go back into the pockets to try to fill holes? Like this is the difference between the Yankees and the Mets. Yeah, the Yankees make the most revenue out of any team in baseball, but their pockets are not that large. Like they have to be a little bit more creative in regards to how they try to put their roster together. So, they have a lot of soul searching to do. And the biggest thing for me is I really do think that in a couple of years, they're going to have to figure out a way or maybe part ways with Brian Cashman and try to go get somebody younger, because I think it's just time. Like he's just this old establishment that it just doesn't work anymore. How he views the game just doesn't work. And David Stearns kind of reminds me of Theo Epstein. And when you have a guy like that is forward thinking, young, knows his stuff, that's a dangerous combination to have owner, GM or president, and then manager. That's the triple threat right there. And they have that. And there's not a lot of teams in baseball that have that. And that's why the Mets projecting out for the next decade, they're going to be one of the best teams in baseball.
They are. No, it feels like, obviously, you can't count out the Philadelphia Phillies, but again, you guys beat them without Juan Soto.
Braves,
Braves, you never, ever count out Atlanta. They're well run. But I'll tell you, last point on the Yankees, I could argue one of the things that turned Juan Soto off, sure, they made the World Series, but Barry, second half of the year since mid-June, they were an average baseball team. I remember I forget what the numbers were, but other than home runs, RBIs, they were at or near the bottom in some of the key major stats. So, it's like you said, it's not a well-rounded team. But yeah, as for the Mets, we going to go and call it 2025 champions, or we going to go ahead?
No, listen, I am a very, very realistic fan. I am not one of those guys that are going to jump out the window and say that. But I will say that this is the inflection point, and this is how you change the narrative and change the direction of your franchise. When you make moves like this, you say to the league, we're not the same old Mets anymore. Even the fan base, there's a big part of this Met fan base that still has Wilpon PTSD. Oh, well, if we give Soto all of this money, well, what are we going to do? There's no cap. We're not penny pinching. This is not the Wilpons telling Steve Phillips to lie to the public and say, hey, A-Rod asked for all of this stuff so we can be able to look like, we did all we can to go get A-Rod. This is not that. This is an owner that says, I'm not messing around. I want to build a winner. I want to make sure that I'm building up this area of Flushing, putting casinos. He has that on deck right now. There's so much going on with the Mets that this is going to be the place to be. I'm telling you, man, like outside of the Yankees, they'll still be the Yankees at some point, right?
Sure.
But the Mets are now going to be the team in New York that people say, you know what? I like the way it's run. I like how the players are respected. I like the way they take care of the players, and they have a lot of fun over there, and you can get paid. I'm going there. And it's never been that in my lifetime. So for me to be able to see that come to fruition for the last 4 years, I've been waiting for this my whole life. That I've never hated the Yankees establishment. It's the fans I hate. But the Yankee establishment, in regards to what George Steinbrenner built, I respected that because he was a guy that said, there's no player I'm not going to go get, and I will pay whatever I have to go keep my team a winner. And I respected that. And I always envied that as a Met fan. I don't have to be envious anymore because I have the guy that will be able to do that for our franchise.
I think one of the last parts you mentioned, I think, is an important one. And again, something else that appealed to Juan Soto, that 765 didn't hurt matters.
Didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt, is the fun aspect of it, right? Like when you, I remember someone put a side-by-side of Yankee Stadium in the playoffs, by the way, and Citi Field. It might as well have been a double-A game in May and Game 7 of the World Series. Like the atmosphere and energy was just different. So yeah, kudos to you guys on getting Juan Soto. Hopefully the Red Sox can get Teoscar or Bregman or somebody.
And it looks good. Looks good for you guys.
We'll see. We need to spend for sure, and hopefully we'll get it done. All right, transition to the NFL quickly. So again, when it comes to you and I have been back and forth about this Kansas City Chiefs thing, right? About them winning close games. They've won now 15 games in a row. What do you have them around? Like the 13th, 14th best team in football, somewhere in that ballpark, right? Like they're.
I'm not going to listen. Don't try to spread propaganda. I don't have them that low. But in regards to just they're not an elite team to me. I think that they're good, but they're just not elite. They're just not. They're not better than the Steelers. They're not better than the Lions. They're not. I don't even think that they're better than the Packers. They're not.
Oh, stop!
Nope.
They're better than Green Bay, Barry. Green Bay can't beat good teams. That's all Kansas City does.
I understand, but at least Green Bay can be able to put up offense. Kansas City looks bad. They look bad.
Bad at what? Let me ask you, bad at what?
Bad at offense. They have a great defense. That defense is scary. It keeps them in games. Pat Mahomes, I'm not gonna lie, he's looked better over the last few weeks than he looked, to start the season, even the middle of the season. So he might be starting to round into playoff form. It's probably Pat Mahomes' time, right? But for me, I'm still not impressed. I am more impressed seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers look like a well-oiled machine.
Can I cut you off?
Yeah.
They're built the same way. That their style, we're gonna win close games, we're gonna execute late Tomlin Reed, like we're gonna be great situationally. Quarterback's gonna be good on third down. We're gonna run the football. I'm excited to see these two teams play on Christmas because it's gonna be a who's better I'm gonna be better at my game than you are at my game.
Yeah.
And so there's some similarities. My thing has always been this with Kansas City is because I actually had them as the third best team behind Buffalo and Detroit coming in.
Okay.
Buffalo will probably fall a little bit. Is that you talk about 15 straight wins and people are like, oh, they got lucky and they had the doink last night, which I thought was just kind of hilarious. It's like, of course, it had to be a little bit of a doink just so people could on Twitter. But is that when this is a part of your identity, you can't get lucky 15 times in a row. Like it's just there's got to be some skill and precision to that. I just think the Mahomes throw to Kelsey on third down, the jump pass. Okay, there's Patrick Mahomes. That's the guy that we watched for a while. By the way, I've got the stat. Hang on. Oh, whoops. Looks like we had a connection problem for a second. Looks like we're back. No, brought up this stat is that Mahomes is 19-13 in his career when entering the fourth quarter. Like Tony Romo's in second at 19-34. If this is who Kansas City is, they're not going to be sexy. They're not going to look as good as Buffalo scoring 40 something in a loss. Yeah. I will bet against that dude wearing number 15 and the guy with the walrus mustache when they give me a reason to. But they're playing. They're playing their game. They're doing it at an exceptional level.
I get you, and all the points that you made are fair. I'm not even going to dispute those. I'm just saying, outside of the record, I think that this Kansas City team looks the most vulnerable to me out of the Super Bowl ones. Record aside, it's just that close games. I understand that they vulnerable in regards to they can be one and done if depending on the matchup.
No, I said Baltimore looks pretty darn vulnerable.
100%. Yeah,
Kansas City easily.
Yeah. Baltimore is looking a little shaky right now, but it's depending on the matchup, man. We'll see. Listen, they might shut me up. I just my eye test. I always go through the eye test, and I see certain teams, and the eye test never really kind of fails for me. We'll see if they go ahead and prove me wrong. If they do, listen, I'm not going to be one of those people that keep standing on something that isn't true. I'll go ahead and say, listen, I was wrong and be able to give them respect. It's just that I don't see the team that I expected to see. They just don't wow me. But then again, they don't have to. They just have to keep winning.
Last year's team didn't wow anybody and they won the Super Bowl. Had they gone out in round 1 or 2, it'd be like, okay, maybe this is like last year's Eagles.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll bet against who gave me a reason to. You kind of segued beautifully into this segment that I want to get into is the fact that the Jets. Can I say your Jets? Am I allowed to say that, or is this going to get me kicked off the network? Is it your Jets? Is it?
I am. Listen, I said it on my show. Was it last week that if Mike McCarthy, gets retained, I think I'm going to have to go back home. I'm going to have to go back home.
All the teams, that's who you choose.
Yeah. Listen, it's the devil I know. Okay, I know them, so I'll go back there and suffer.
Well, listen, let's talk about their quarterback.
You done messed up, Aaron.
Because listen. By the way, Aaron was actually great. Yesterday, he threw for 300 for the first time in 3 years. He played well. The defense let him down at the end. Let me just ask you this, because you were high on the Jets, you were high on Aaron. I wasn't. There's a number of reasons the season went the way that it did. Weirdly, I actually overrated them. I had them at 7 wins. They're not even going to get that. Right. What would be the leading cause? The number one source of blame to you would be who or what?
Are we talking off field or on field?
Anything.
Woody Johnson.
Okay.
Woody Johnson is the biggest reason why this team stinks. Woody Johnson has been the reason why this team is not consistent over the last 24 years. He's one of the worst owners in North America. Worst. Because he doesn't know how to put the right people in charge. And when he does have the right people in charge, he gives them a very short leash. Why was Herm Edwards fired? Why was Rex Ryan not given more responsibility in regards to putting the roster together? Why'd you allow Mike Tannenbaum to destroy the team the way he did? Why did you hire Todd Bowles and then get rid of him? You didn't even give Todd Bowles a
guy in the last 10 years.
You didn't even give Todd Bowles a chance to be able to get his establishment or get a feel of the team. You fired him for Adam Gase, who has been one of the worst, most overrated guys in football history.
Yes.
Peyton Manning made Adam Gase, right?
Yep.
Adam Gase didn't even call plays. Peyton Manning did.
Yeah.
So you make that mistake. He continues to make mistakes. Even now, you fire Joe Douglas. Why? Why would you fire him and not just let him finish the season out? What was the point of that? I can understand you trying to fire Robert Saleh because I heard some stuff in the locker room or whatever it is, or even he tried to meddle with that, right? So that's off field. On the field, they didn't do enough. They didn't put a strong offensive line together for Aaron Rodgers. He's coming off an Achilles surgery. This is a guy that needs protection. You should have got Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers would have helped Aaron Rodgers a lot more. I'm not talking. They would have looked a lot better offensively, right?
Bowers is special. He's incredible.
He's special. You give a guy like Aaron Rodgers that, then and the defense let them down. Ahmad Gardner, I'm not going to call him Sauce because he hasn't earned it yet, right?
Yep.
He's been one of the worst cornerbacks in football. The secondary in itself can't stop anybody. So even when the front seven plays well, the secondary is going to give it up. Look what happened yesterday. They had an 8-point lead, and one drive they go ahead and allow the game tying score. And then in overtime, you have Jonnu Smith that just took over. He didn't have a catch the whole game, had 3 catches down the stretch and had the game winning touchdown. That's not Aaron Rodgers' fault. I can name 6 games this season where the Jets defense let them down because they had fourth quarter leads. So although he's been very inconsistent in his play, and granted, he's not to blame. He has some blame to take as well because he's the quarterback. This defense has let them down in situations where it shouldn't let them down. The special teams has let them down where it shouldn't have let them down. So you factor in all of these things, they probably still might have been a 7-8 win team, but at least they're not on 3 wins. So that's the thing. If you replace the head coach and go get somebody that's an actual leader, if you keep Aaron Rodgers in place, if you keep the Devontae Adams, if you keep the offensive pieces in place.
Wait, you think they should keep Aaron Rodgers?
I think they should, yeah.
Okay, while you tell me why this is, and then we'll get to the Lakers and I'll let you go.
Yeah.
This has been a running bit on my show all season long. Is the Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for 300 yards since I was a senior in high school. So what we're gonna do one final time, because the last time we'll ever get a chance to do it is show the quarterbacks that have done it more recently than Aaron. Just let me know your thoughts, on Aaron Rodgers, as we go and let this list play itself out here. But it's a lot of guys that are really good and some that I'm not sure are in the league anymore. But no, why should the Jets keep Aaron Rodgers, given that this is far and away the worst season of his career? By the way, 7 times, you talk about the Jets defense has been bad 7 times. Okay, Aaron has had the ball in his hands with a chance to tie or take the lead and has come up short on all of them.
All right, but Bryson, let's be honest. When we talk about me and you have back and forth about Dak Prescott, and you say that how receivers are not getting separation and all that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
You can say the same thing about the New York Jets.
Okay, well, here's why. Okay, so Garrett Wilson just forgot how to run routes now?
Garrett Wilson, as good as he is, if you have Devontae Adams on the other side, you have Garrett Wilson. But if everybody else is not doing their job correctly, those guys are going to get trapped. They're going to get double teamed. If you don't have time to throw the football, you're not going to be able to see guys open the way they should be. So all I'm saying is that I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers has not played great. He hasn't played great. But this Jets offensive line and the team itself offensively has not been great either. So if you put somebody who actually knows what the hell they're doing offensively, that can be able to scheme up and help this team kind of structure itself properly, I think that they have a chance. You put a Ben Johnson on this team. You put somebody who has an idea of offense. Zach Taylor, if he gets fired, you don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Nah, not Zach Taylor. I wouldn't bring in Zach Taylor. That's
as an OC. As an OC is what I'm saying.
Maybe. No, I get that. No, all I would say is, and I've saved this for occasions such as this. Was the problem Green Bay? I mean, this was Aaron. This was, by the way, pre 40 years old, pre Achilles. Yeah. Is that like the guy hasn't been good and quite now? Would have Ben Johnson help? Absolutely, he'd help. But do I think it is anything that would get the Jets to 9 wins? No, I don't see that.
Here's my thing. I think you keep Aaron Rodgers for at least another year or two. You draft the quarterback, Bryson. Draft the quarterback because it's important to have the quarterback sit behind a guy like Aaron Rodgers. By 2 years from now or a year from now, Aaron Rodgers might be done, and now you have a new quarterback. But to draft another guy and just throw him to the wolves, the Jets have done that and made that mistake year after year after year. It's better to keep Aaron because you have whatever you have in place. Let him finish out correctly. Get the staff in place and see what happens. I think that if you get a better staff, who the hell was going to win with the staff? Who's going to win with the staff?
I mean,
I don't think anybody would.
I called that from the jump, and you called me crazy.
I listened because I was optimistic. So you were right. I was just optimistic.
Okay.
So it played out just the way you said, but now they have to figure it out. But guess what? You have Woody Johnson that's now trusting Mike Tannenbaum to figure out who's going to lead this team. Like, what are we doing? He's an idiot.
No. I mean, listen, they're one of the poorest run franchises in football.
He's an idiot.
We can definitely agree on that. Before we let you get out of here, sorry to end on a poor note, but Lakers won last night, but they've been in a little bit of a rut as of late, and we can even show you, some of the numbers from this season. They've just kind of been an average basketball team. There's no other way around it. What can they do to turn things around? Because LeBron, kind of bounced back out of his slump. AD's been great most of the season. My guy Dalton Connect out of Tennessee has been a good addition. Other than that, D'Angelo Russell, never been a fan of D'Angelo Russell. That needs to be a trade piece. Rui, what needs to happen for the Lakers to get back on track?
Okay. So you want me to lay it out right now for you?
Have at it.
See if I have something that has a color. Oh, I don't. You go to Rob Pelinka's door, you knock on it, right? You have security guards on either side of you. And then you walk him out the fucking building. That's how you fix it. That's how you fix it. This man is a charlatan and a liar and a gaslighter. That's what the problem is. He said that, we don't want to make any deals at the trade deadline because we don't have the power of two first round picks. Okay. So then we wait until the offseason. Oh, well, you have the power of 2 first-round picks now. What do you do with it? Nothing. Everybody else is making trades, but you want to make the excuse of the CBA. The new CBA is so hard to do. You're an idiot. Anybody who would come into the season with this roster thinking that you're going to make a change just because the head coach is different, JJ Redick's schemes are great. But if you don't have good players to execute that system, it doesn't matter. This is not even a joke. They have the worst bench in the NBA.
Yeah,
the worst bench in the NBA. We're talking about teams that are worse than them. They have better players on the bench. That game against the what was the last game they lost? Against the Hawks. The Hawks scored, I think it was 69 or 70 points off the bench. You know how many points the Lakers scored off the bench?
15.
17.
Wow.
17 points. LeBron and AD had damn near triple doubles, both of them. What are you going to do when you have guys like Gabe Vincent that can't score? You have Rui Hachimura, garbage. D'Lo, garbage. It's a garbage roster. I'm surprised they even have 13 wins. I'm surprised.
You and I both 100% agree on Pelinka. And if you remember last offseason, LeBron was going to take a pay cut so they could get Klay Thompson, or he
couldn't get anybody.
They couldn't get any of them.
They couldn't get anybody.
It's the same team from last year. The coach can help, but it's not going to take
when you have a GM that literally is scared to make moves because he doesn't want to look foolish, you're dead in the water. You're dead in the water. First off, he doesn't have much relationships around the league because of when he was a GM, people hated his ass, right? So him being an agent, when he was an agent, now he's a GM. He doesn't have those relationships. And on top of that, you're the Lakers. So people don't want to deal with you. And on top of that, you're an idiot. So you have these three things that are going against you. It's tough to win. What he needs to do, going back to your first question, he has to blow it up. Go get Zach LaVine at this point. Just trade everything and go get Zach LaVine. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I've seen what this team can do. They're not good enough. Go get yourself another guy that can be able to get 20-plus points and see what happens.
Can we have LeBron? Can the Warriors have LeBron?
You don't have enough for me to take LeBron.
You wouldn't take Kuminga?
Absolutely not.
Oh, man, he just dropped 33. You know, speaking of the Warriors, and we'll play out with this, I don't know if you saw, did you see the ending of last night's Warriors?
Oh, it was beautiful. Beautiful. ISO top of the key. Draymond got the ball, dribbling between his legs.
Barry, when has Draymond ever ISO'd late in the fourth
quarter?
Oh,
yeah, that was personal. That was personal. and then Steph Curry sets the little ghost screen. It was great.
Yep. No, it was beautiful. So you and I are certified as screw Gobert haters.
Yeah, the fact that Rudy Gobert allowed little Steph to screen him, this is why we don't respect him. You're 7'1", and you allow somebody who's not even 6'3" to screen you like that. Get him out. How does he win Defensive Player of the Year every year? How?
It was one of the great crimes of NBA history that he's got 4 and Draymond and AD combined have 1.
That's crazy.
Insanity. Barry, made some time to come on. Congrats to your Mets. You guys might win the World Series like the next 7 years or something. Mets are rolling. Juan Soto's there. Barry Grant Jr. All Even Podcast. Check him out. I'm sure next episode is just going to be just.
Listen, you have no idea what's coming. Oh man, you have no idea what's coming. This is going to be one of the best shows I've ever put together, because I'm coming after the Mick. I'm coming after Yankee fans that are dogging Juan Soto. I'm coming after everybody. Can't wait.
That's going to be fun. Barry, appreciate you coming on, man. Have a good one.
My guy.
Barry Grant Jr., as always, great stuff. Listen, the whole thing with Rudy Gobert, we've talked about this for years, is that, yeah, great shot blocker, no question about that, but can't defend the perimeter. Obviously, we know can't shoot, is one of the most easily exposable players in the playoffs. I mean, Luka Doncic showed us that. I love Patrick's comment there. Rudy, rubbish. Yeah, he's bad. But no, you know what? I won't say that. Rudy's not bad, but Rudy's a good player. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, good? Not sure he should have 1. Barry Grant Jr., the All Even Podcast. Great stuff as always. Be back in 1 minute. Take a 1 minute break and then be back to discuss more around the National Football League, but particularly the first thing we come back, college football, the college football playoff. People are real mad, at least in somewhere near Alabama, about how the playoff turned out. Give me a take on why SMU should have absolutely got in and did after the break in Carving Up Live. We're just getting started, folks. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So, to the college football playoff, it got released. The final edition of it got released yesterday. And while I may disagree with the Tennessee Volunteers being at number 9 in terms of seeding and having to go on the road to Ohio State, I think Tennessee has clearly earned the right to host a college football playoff game. Nonetheless, that's not the story. The story is that we go into college football championship weekend, which, by the way, the 2 best conferences gave us, the 2 best conferences gave us 2 of the 3 best games, but the that really changed everything. ACC title game, Clemson, SMU. I thought the Mustangs were going to get the job done against Clemson. First half, Clemson absolutely smokes them. SMU storms back in the second half, ties the game. It was the special teams with a kick return and then a walk-off 56-yard field goal wins the game for Clemson at the end. So Clemson gets in the college football playoff automatically by virtue of being one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. The question, though, was SMU, Alabama. Alabama was the last team in last week. What are they going to do with Alabama this week? SMU, yeah, they lost. Yeah, their strength of schedule is kind of weak, but they just took a team that's in the college football playoff down to where the other team needed a 56-yard field goal to beat them. Not taking credit away from Clemson. That was a great job by Clemson bouncing back after that rough loss to South Carolina last week. But SMU taking them down the wire apparently is what the committee needed to see to get the job done. And the fact of the matter is the committee got it right. The fact, when you talk about Alabama, yes, the strength of schedule is proportionate to SMU. It's not even close. It's not. First of all, the SEC is a far better conference, the ACC. Now, it does appear to be reflected that much in the fact that the SEC got 3 teams in, ACC got 2, but nonetheless, the SEC is clearly the better conference. I keep hearing Alabama fans, defenders, and even the greatest coach of all time, Nick Saban. It's what Nick Saban said on ESPN, and I get it. Alabama coach, I understand that, but I've got the quote right here. This is what Nick Saban said after Alabama was passed up in favor of SMU to make the college football playoff. This is what the GOAT said. Quote, I think one of the things I've mentioned throughout the football season is if we don't take strength of schedule into consideration, is there any benefit to scheduling really good teams in the future? Here at Alabama, we're supposed to play Notre Dame, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Florida State in the future outside of the league. Those are great games for fans to see. That's what I think we should be doing in college football is creating more good inventory for great games that people get interested in. Do you enhance people wanting to do that? What's the athletic director going to do? He may cancel all those games knowing that the SEC is tough enough. Okay. Out of conference scheduling. I just decided, why don't we look just for a second at what Alabama's strength of schedule looked like, because it was there's some big dogs they played. Listen, I'm not sure if SMU could have beaten some of these teams. It would have been tough, certainly. Alabama's out of conference schedule. Western Kentucky, South Florida, Wisconsin, Mercer. If Nick Saban wants to say, Wisconsin. Okay, weird flex. Wisconsin wasn't very good, but have at it. Alabama did that to themselves. Alabama has gotten the benefit of the doubt as it pertains to brand bias for a while now. That's not to take credit away from the great Bama teams. 2015, 2020, even some of those teams that lost some natties in the natty to Clemson or to Georgia. Those were great Alabama teams. I'm talking about the ones that were, you can make a case, they should be in, they should be out. Bama could have taken care of themselves if they had sweep these 2 games. Split them. Vanderbilt. They gave up 40 points to Diego Pavia. Great story, great kid. But gave up 40 points to Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt, which, for the record, that win got Vanderbilt bowl eligible. Perspective, Andy, better season than most of their previous years, still not very good. All would have been forgiven if you can just go on the road and do, by the way, what Tennessee did earlier this season. Go to Norman, Oklahoma against a Sooners team that finished 13th in the SEC and take care of business. And instead, they didn't lose. They got trounced. Alabama's ceiling, I think, is absolutely higher than SMU. If you put SMU in a home game against Georgia, Georgia's going to win. We saw what Alabama did in a home game against Georgia. They beat Georgia. Almost blew a big lead. Actually did blow a big lead. Georgia did take the lead. And then Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams responded, and Alabama won that game. Kudos to them. It was a great win. Beating Georgia is no easy task. Their ceiling's higher than SMU, but their floor is significantly lower. Listen, if the case is, 6-6 in the SEC is not equivalent to 6-6 in the ACC. we're grasping at straws at this point. And frankly, in a 12-team playoff, if you don't make it, don't have a ton of sympathy for you. They were not good teams. There were great teams over the course of the last decade that missed out on the previous 14 college football playoff. Listen, I was always in the mindset of it works itself out. I think even this year, to a degree, it kind of all worked itself out in the end. But there were years where Ohio State could have gotten in. Penn State could have gotten in. Some years where you could make a case, maybe a USC or a Tennessee and Alabama. Plenty of years where perfectly qualified playoff teams were Georgia last year, folks. Back-to-back title winners, undefeated, number one, start to finish, 3-point loss to Nick Saban, you're out of the playoff. Great teams have gotten knocked out. There's a level of sympathy that does come to the teams. It's like, man, you had one slip up and we're done. We'll give Bama a road loss to Tennessee. I was at that game, folks. Go Vols. That place was a madhouse, as it tends to be at Neyland Stadium. It's one of the hardest atmospheres playing college football. It's part of the reason why Tennessee should host a game. Nonetheless, I'll give you a loss to Tennessee. Frankly, Tennessee's better than you. That's a tough place to go play and win. I'll even give you a slip up. Folks, Georgia got Ole Miss is a good team, but Ole Miss destroyed Georgia. I mean, beat them up physically all over the place. Okay? You talk about teams down the list here, okay? All right. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. I'll give you a slip up. But if Notre Dame then went on to, lose to USC, it'd be like, I don't know. That's 2 losses to 2 teams that aren't that good. Are you one of the 12 best teams? Alabama shot themselves in the foot twice. I'll give you the loss to Tennessee. I'll even give you a loss to Oklahoma or Vanderbilt. I can't give you a loss I can't give you the benefit of the doubt when you lose to them both. It showed a lack of focus. It showed a lack of attention to detail. It showed, frankly, that you were looking ahead to future opponents. If you make a case, if you said stack the 12 best rosters in college football, is Alabama in it? You darn skippy they're in it. But last I checked, that's not how we do playoffs. We go based on, the games. If that blowout had held, if Clemson had blown out SMU, absolutely Alabama's. I would have no problem if Alabama's in the playoff over SMU. None. If that blowout had held, absolutely. SMU took an excellent Clemson team down to the wire. By the way, no one expected SMU to do what they did this season. And they didn't gag in the games they were supposed to win. Alabama choked. Beat Georgia, win into Vanderbilt, win in Nashville, got outplayed for 60 minutes. Had a playoff spot, a top 10 spot, dare I say, a home game at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and got mollywopped by a 6-6 total and a 2-6 in the SEC, 13th in the conference, Oklahoma Sooners. You did this to yourselves. Don't get mad at the committee. The committee has given Alabama the benefit of the doubt for a long time over the years. You did it to yourself. You let the committee no choice. And so in a way, it's almost justice was served in an odd way that SMU didn't win the game, because if SMU had won the game, Alabama would have actually gotten in because no Clemson. To a degree, again, as I've said oftentimes over the years about the playoff, it usually works itself out. It worked itself out. And again, in the first year of a 12-team playoff that didn't even exist last year, if you don't make it, too bad. Sorry. That's on you. You did it to yourself. Bama took care of their good teams. They were 5-1 against teams that were in the top 25. I mean, you look at, let's look at the good teams Alabama, was able to take care of business against, okay? Ranked teams. Beat Georgia. Great win, best of the season. Lost Tennessee. Okay, a lot of teams lost to Tennessee. Their Vols are a great team. Yeah, destroyed Missouri. Missouri shouldn't be ranked in the top 25. Different discussion for a different day. But you destroyed Missouri. Okay, you went on the road to Baton Rouge and embarrassed LSU. You took care of the team. Sorry, that was actually 3-1 against ranked teams. You took care of the teams you were supposed to. But if you look ahead, if you don't take the other opponent seriously, while SMU did, yeah, that's you deserve to be left out. So I don't want to hear the whining and moaning from some of these Alabama fans and from the athletic director. Dear God, I saw a quote from him. That was, listen, I know he's supposed to take up for Alabama. I get it. But this was from Greg Byrne, the athletic director at Alabama. Quote, With this outcome, we will need to assess how many Power 4 and non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the college football playoff. That is not good for college football. Dear God. Mercer, South Florida, Western Kentucky, Wisconsin. I keep it like they're acting like they lost to Oregon, and that's why the committee kicked them out. It's so precious. It's so elitist. Oh, by virtue, I must be in Alabama. Come on, like what are you guys talking about? We beat the teams we were supposed to. Bad teams. Those games never happen. All the games count. That's the beauty of sports. That's why you go out and play the game. The games aren't won on paper. And I'm not gonna act like SMU's gonna go win the Natty. I think they're gonna go down in round 1 to Penn State. I do. I don't think SMU's going anywhere. Frankly, I'd probably pick Penn State over Alabama, but it'd be a closer game. But that's not what that is. You put yourself there. It's like I always say, anytime, the refs cost us the game. Your team puts you in a position to where you needed the refs to make a call or not make a call in order for you to win the game. That's your team's fault. Don't put yourself in a position where the ref needs to make a call for you to win or lose. That's how I feel about Alabama today. They dug their own hole. What do we got? Patrick. Alabama crying over not making it. 3 losses, 2 of them to unranked Vanderbilt and OU. ACC title game was pretty entertaining in the 4th. There's no question about that. What do we got? Patrick, Alabama took a page out of my Seminoles book and tried to bring down the committee. How well did that work out? 2024 LSU was the worst in program history. Or FSU, not LSU. FSU was the worst in program history. It was bad. Alabama spoiled with winning and being in the playoff. They can't handle it when the heat gets hotter than July. This team wasn't as crisp in DeBoer's first year this season. Flipped on Bama during preparation for Vanderbilt, setting traps, yes, in the locker room. That to me spelled trouble. Then for Nick to say it's the easiest place to win a game. Yeah, Nick Saban did say. And by the way, for the record, Nick Saban's not necessarily wrong. He's not. When Tennessee goes on the road to Vanderbilt, that's like 85% Tennessee. They show the shots of the stands. There's like orange everywhere. That's like, listen, Vanderbilt's just not the football program. I got a great baseball program, which Tennessee owns too. But listen, Vanderbilt, by their standards, I'm not even taking a shot. They had an admirable season. In no universe should they compete with Alabama. So I don't want to hear it. At all. Oh, non-conference schedules. Okay, your non-conference schedule was really weak. If Bama had lost to Tennessee and, I don't know, LSU, and then they had a slip-up, I think they'd have a better case now. Now, LSU had a disappointing year, but LSU's better than Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. That's no question about that. LSU was I think, in the top 10 at one point this season, I think. So if you had lost to 2 good teams and had a slip-up, it'd be tight, it'd be close, but I wouldn't be outraged if you were in the playoff. Frankly, again, I wouldn't have been outraged if SMU gotten blown out. It's be like, man, you get smoked in your last game, you expect to be in after you have 1 loss with a weak conference? No, you're not. But SMU did compete. So yeah, Bama should not be in. By the way, as far as the playoff is concerned, they got to fix it after this year. They really do. I 2 problems. I got no problem with winning your conference automatically guarantee you being in the playoff. It adds extra value to conference championship games. I got no issue with that. Like, I don't have a problem with Boise State being in or Arizona State being in. Frankly, I think they're one of the 12 best teams to begin with. The major problem is, again, let's just be objective. And again, maybe I'm proven wrong, but look up and down. Texas is better than Boise State and Arizona State. Those are excellent teams. They're not as good as Texas. They're not as good as, Penn State. Teams that could be in the top 4. But to me, if they didn't change that, it wouldn't be the end of the world. They got to change the seeding. Like next year, they've got to listen, in no universe should Oregon be the best team in college football from start to finish. And based on how the seeding works, based on how if you win, you're going to play this opponent as opposed to you reseed it based on best seeds, worst seeds. In no universe should Oregon be the best team in college football. Start to finish, beat Boise State, Ohio State, Penn State, only undefeated team in the college football playoff. And then you get the hardest road to the national championship by far. Sure, you get the first round bye, but guess you got to play the next week, Tennessee and Ohio State. That doesn't seem to be a wide open, clear cut path. And by the way, you could very easily play Texas after that. Meanwhile, 6th seed Penn State, who lost to the best two teams they played, Ohio State and Oregon, Penn State's path is SMU, Boise State, and then after that, they get either Georgia without their starting quarterback or Notre Dame, who hasn't really beaten that many good teams at all this year. Like, Penn State kind of has a straight line drive to being one of the Final Four. Really one of the Final Two, if we're going to be specific about it. So, I don't like how that seeding works at all. Penn State should, by definition of being the 6th seed, have a more difficult path than Oregon does. Absolutely. I mean, come on, you're the best team start to finish. It's like, hey, you're rewarded with the bye, but you're rewarded with maybe the most talented team in college football, Ohio State, or a Tennessee team that is elite defensively, can run the football, and has an awesome coach, and went 10-2 in the SEC. I don't know. That doesn't seem to be admirable. Now, if, by the way, it will almost give more credibility to Oregon if they were to somehow go through this and win it. But yeah, they got to change. 12-team playoff, great. It led to NIL, conference realignment, 12-team playoff, transfer portal, all 4 things that everybody panicked about, lost their minds about. It's going to destroy college football, led to one of the most entertaining regular seasons I can ever remember. Ever, because every game held so much more meaning. Because last year, you lose twice, you're done. Let's see what your bowl game is in December. You're done. Now that's not the case. So I give them major props. I just think they need to change the way the seeding works in a major way. Patrick, how do you feel about Oregon after beating Penn State Saturday night? I feel like they're still the best team. Dylan Gabriel has been balling. They've been running the football effectively. It's one of the most explosive offenses. Dan Lanning is one of the best 3 or 4 best coaches in college football. He's done an unbelievable job from the Kirby Smart / Nick Saban tree. What a surprise. Saban assistants go on to be very successful. He's done an unbelievable job. Dylan Gabriel is playing his best football at the end of the year. And again, top to bottom, like, one thing that really stood out with me with Oregon is, man, they looked fast. I mean, they looked like, now Indianapolis turf, we get that indoors, but they were just like, Penn State's got good players. They got a tight end who's like first round pick without question. That kid is unbelievable. Drew Aller up and down, but when he's up, he's really good. Penn State, I think, is it Abdul Carter, I believe, is their defensive player who wears number 11, like Micah Parsons and like LeVar Arrington. Outstanding linebacker. They've got talent, no doubt about it. But when you compare the speeds of these two teams, it's not that Penn State was slow. It's just that Oregon was just flying all over the field on both sides of the ball. So they were my preseason pick to win the Natty. I definitely not changing on that right now because they're playing exceptionally well. I wanted to circle back to a couple of topics. Then we'll do recap, week 14 recap, and then get to Bengals Cowboys tonight because it was a very entertaining, very entertaining week 14. Want to talk about Kansas City. Because they beat the Los Angeles Chargers 19-17 last night. They just cannot cover. Listen, this has been it's a good thing. I do the segment if I were a bet man. In 2024, it's probably a good thing I'm not a bet man because I've not had a 3-0 week all season long and I have a losing record. 1-1-1. Got a push, a win, and a loss. It was just not a great day. I just don't get... I know, I swear to God, I probably sound like a broken record at this point. I understand that. I don't get the narratives around this Chiefs team. I don't get it. Folks, they've won 15 consecutive one-score games in a row. At some point, that's not luck. At some point, like I was just talking about with Barry earlier, that's who you are. That's what you're good at. Is that the game is close. And Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes wasn't even bad. Patrick Mahomes, I actually thought was really good in this game. We could show up his stats. He had a QBR, only a 59 passer of 88, but I just thought third down, the jump passes, throws to Kelsey. Mahomes, and by the way, was impactful with his legs too. Is that this is how they win games. Frankly, I'm starting to hear narratives right now, and I'm not liking it one bit. Surrounding my Pittsburgh Steelers, but they win too many close games, that devil magic, and obviously that's being facetious, but the Steelers get lucky. No, they have Mike Tomlin, and they're built to win close games at the end because they're situationally flawless, and that's what Kansas City does. Kansas City is really just the Steelers with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's kind of what they are. Now, again, because Kelsey, Kelsey is situationally great at this point in his career. Kelsey's not the tight end that he once was, but when you absolutely need number 87, 87 is going to be open. 87 is going to make a big third down catch. He's going to be good in the red zone. DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, making some big catches, caught a touchdown in the first half. Is that when you need your defense to make a stop, they probably do. And if they don't, which they weren't able to do last night when the Chargers got it going offensively in the second half, that's okay. We've got the best player on planet Earth, number 15, Patrick Mahomes, and he's going to drive us right down the field, get what we need to get. And sure, we're going to have a little drama with the doink kick there, but people are talking about all these close games. Okay, let's just review them. Let's review these close games. Isaiah Likely's toe. Okay, if Isaiah Likely is in, the Ravens are still down 1. They can kick an extra point, go to overtime. They can go for 2 with the win. I don't know. I saw the Ravens run a 2-point conversion to tie against the Steelers a few weeks ago this season. Go back and watch. Didn't work so well. It was quite poorly drawn up and executed. Not saying it would have been the same, but people act like, if he's in, they win. Actually, they might still lose if they get stopped on the 2. The next week, game against Cincinnati. Pass interference. The guy was all over. I forget if it was Worthy or Rashee Rice. I think it was Rice. Defensive back all over Rashee Rice. Obvious pass interference call. Kansas City ends up winning on a field goal. The next week, Kyle Pitts, pass interference. There was 5 minutes left in the game. Even if Atlanta scores a touchdown there, have you watched the Falcons defense this year? Mahomes is going to go right down the field and get what he needs there. Field goal, I forget what the situation was. Field goal touchdown, Mahomes will get what he needs to get. They'll win the game. Okay, what else do people make excuses about? Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay went for 2. They would have given Mahomes the ball with enough time to get into field goal range, and Harrison Butker probably would have hit that kick too. Let's keep going. Denver, the kick was blocked. Yeah. Kansas City blocked the kick. Will Lutz didn't miss. Kansas City blocked the kick. We gave Green Bay credit when they blocked the kick. We give all these teams that they block a kick at the end of the game. We're like, man, what a great special teams play. Kansas City, it's luck. Okay, Kansas City blocks kick. It's good fortune, and the football gods are smiling upon the Chiefs. What else? Close game with Carolina. Yeah, it was close, and then Patrick Mahomes was like, okay, it's Carolina. We're just going to kind of sleepwalk. It's tied. Minute, change to go. Say less. I'll get you in a field goal range, and we're going to win it. Because Kansas City has won back-to-back Super Bowls. They've been to 4 Super Bowls in the Mahomes era. They've been an AFC title game every year in the Mahomes era. What's Carolina on the road, really? And we're still going to win that game. Raiders game. Bad snap. Okay, even if there wasn't a bad snap and the Raiders attempted a field goal, I don't know. Carlson was awful in that game. Couldn't buy a kick. You're telling me with the game on the line, he's going to make that one? The constant excuses about, this should happen, or that should. I will say it again. We used to say this about the Patriots too. They're lucky. Special teams error. What made New England, I talked about this on my show back in the day, what made New England so freaking great, and it's credit to Brady and Belichick and the defense and all that, when the other team made a mistake, we're going to make you pay double. Every single time you screw up, we're going to take advantage. You have to play, what does Denzel say in Remember the Titans? We will be perfect. You have to be perfect to beat New England. And you have to be perfect in situational opportunities to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Go ahead and put up the stat, because this is just an updated graphic from what we showed last week, okay? Chiefs had the best record all time when going for a three-peat, 12-1. 14 straight wins and one-score games. Actually, it should say 15. I apologize. That's first all time. 4.3 point per game differential. That's the worst team all time. Worst all time for a team starting 11-1. Should be 12-1. My bad. And better. You know who second place was? 76 Raiders. Who won the Super Bowl? It's almost as if when you have a championship mentality, coach, quarterback, tight end, defense, culture, you're kind of built to win close games. It's actually not an indictment. You actually shouldn't be equated with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had an old wash quarterback in 2020, but started 11-1. No one believed in them, nor should they have, and then fell apart at the end of the season. Or Philadelphia last year, who was a bad coach, questionable play calling. Last year, an awful defense with no Super Bowls. almost like this year's Chiefs that are, I don't know, 12-1 and going for a three-peat shouldn't be equated with those teams. Yeah, they're not sexy to look at on television. Maybe the Buffalo Bills are, but guess what? The Bills have 3 losses. The Chiefs have 1. I don't know. I mean, call me crazy. Call me nuts. Maybe I'm missing the boat in this one. Maybe I'm off. But I think winning close games, or winning games ugly, rather, I should say. Give me that over one where everything looks pretty and is eye candy. Because Baltimore does that a lot. Boy, Baltimore, any given week can look like a bunch of world beaters. Lamar, and I mean, by the way, they're going to do it next week against the Giants. Giants are god-awful, maybe the worst team in football. Ravens are going to throttle them. But when it's time to face the big boys in Pittsburgh, or the champs in Kansas City, or frankly, anybody for the playoffs, Lamar Jackson isn't going to deliver because he never has. Look around the rest of the AFC. Okay. Denver. Now, Denver's young. We're going to give the benefit of the doubt. They're young. They're not ready yet. Houston's not that good. They're in a bad division. CJ's in a big-time slump right now. If Kansas City played them, I think they'd actually probably be close because Kansas City always wins close games, but they would beat Houston without question. Kansas City's just fine. No question about that. All right. Real quick, too. What else do we have? What else happened in the NFL? Okay, you know what? Let's go and get into our Week 14 recap. So, great day again, once again, around the National Football League. A headline, at least in my view, my house, my television, everything I got to consume yesterday, headlined, of course, by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Black and yellow Monday, baby. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Pittsburgh getting the job done against Cleveland. I actually had Cleveland covering in this game. I'm thinking 6.5, division rivalry. Yeah, Jameis is a gamer. You never know which Jameis you're going to get. Now, you got bad Jameis yesterday. You know, he had two interceptions and a passer rating of 68. That's not going to work. But listen, the fact that Pittsburgh, this is what I thought was so impressive. Because Cleveland's 3-10. It's the best 3-10 team in the league. And listen, y'all know, I don't like giving Cleveland, attaboys. That's just not, I don't like doing it. Not the Browns. I'm talking about all Cleveland sports. But the fact of the matter is, if Jameis was the week 1 starter, this would be they'd be the Colts, basically. They'd be like a 6-ish win team, maybe 7 if they got lucky, and be in the playoff hunt going into week 15. But because they had the second worst quarterback in football, Deshaun Watson, with the worst contract in sports starting, and they had to start him, that, destroyed their season. With that said, what I found so impressive about Pittsburgh is that George Pickens is gone. There's no George Pickens. Russell Wilson doesn't turn the ball over. Russell Wilson's deep ball is working. By the way, Russell's numbers are not eye-popping, okay? QBR 54, it's pretty good. Completion percentage 15-26, okay. 158 yards, but a couple touchdowns. He delivered some dimes to Van Jefferson, Van, the touchdown man, and Pat Freiermuth. By the way, Pittsburgh ran the ball effectively as well, 120 yards on the ground. Tony Romo said it after the game, and I couldn't agree more with Tony. This is about as sound, as fundamentally sound as any team in the NFL. Now with Russell Wilson, with the deep ball, with George Pickens. By the way, again, 27 points on the board with no George Pickens. Like that's impressive. And there were points in that game, especially in the first half, prior to the I think it was the Benton interception off of Jameis Winston. Is that I thought the Steelers at times looked just stagnant. Like they weren't getting anything going. The running game was not working, and penalties, and Russell was running for his life. And they still were able to score 27. Is that with Russell, as long as George Pickens is healthy, deep ball's there. Offensive line is starting to play better now that the season's getting later. That's a credit to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers coaching staff. Running the football. We know what TJ Watt and them boys do on defense. Chris Boswell, case can be made. He's the best kicker in football. By the way, they're going to have at least one home playoff game. That loss by Buffalo to the Rams really helps Pittsburgh. Now I'm just hoping Detroit beats Buffalo. It's going to be hard for the Steelers to run the table because they got Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati to end the season. It can be hard for the Steelers to run the table. If they do, they might win the Super Bowl, like going away. I'm just saying that would be impressive, but Steelers getting the job done. Of course they got the job done. We'll be talking about. Saints beat the Giants. Not gonna lie, barely watched. The Giants are just horrible. The Saints did cover though. My bad. The Giants did cover. Saints were 5.5-point favorites on the road. As bad as the Giants are, Saints ain't that much better. So at least the Giants covered. They're a train wreck right now though. Vikings Falcons. So Kirk Cousins' homecoming was not what he hoped to be. He threw a couple picks, had a pass rating of 70. Meanwhile, his counterpart on the other side, his replacement, Sam Darnold, house 22 of 28, 347, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 touchdown passes, QBR 0 to 100 of 84, and a passer rating of 157.9. Folks, that is 0.4 points off of having a perfect passer rating. I don't know how he didn't, to be honest with you. Sam Darnold was out of this world. Some of this is Atlanta just has a horrendous defense, and the Falcons are internally combusting as we speak. Listen, Sam's been great. Sam's got 28 touchdowns this year. Sam's moving well. Kevin O'Connell, listen, if you gave me a vote for Coach of the Year, I'm going to be 100% biased. I'd probably vote Mike Tomlin because I think Tomlin's done an amazing job, as usual, but especially this year. If they gave it to Kevin O'Connell, I wouldn't protest it. I wouldn't have a problem with it. With what he's done with what I thought was a broken player and turn him into, hey, you're hearing folks today say, hey, Sam Darnold, MVP, we can at least talk about it. That's Kevin O'Connell. So, by the way, Minnesota, we know they have a great defense. That's been apparent all season long. As for Atlanta, listen, I said this coming into this game, that with as bad as Kirk Cousins had played in this losing streak for the Atlanta Falcons, you put yourself in a position where you're going to give Kirk Cousins the homecoming. You're not going to bench him prior to him coming back to Minnesota. With that said, if Kirk was bad, and he was, you bench him. If he's great, you play him the rest of the year, and it is what it is. But if he plays poorly, which he did, Falcons schedule moving forward: Vegas, Giants, Commanders, Panthers. They're better than 3 out of those next 4 teams. Prime position to start Michael Penix Jr. Ease him into it. The Raiders don't have a good defense. They're beat up. The Giants are bad. The Commanders are good. They just have a bad defense. Carolina plays hard, but you're better than them. Prime opportunity. But this is not, listen, nobody's losing their job. GM's not getting fired. Coach isn't getting fired. Roster is still going to be intact. If you make the playoffs, great. Great, you made the playoffs. If not, okay, let's see what we get out of these next 4 games and see what we can work off so that Michael Penix can build in what will be his first full season in year 2. Folks know I am insanely high on Michael Penix. Love the kid, maturity, arm strength. He's not crazy mobile, but he moves well in the pocket. I love Penix. Was my number 2 prospect last year at the quarterback position to Caleb Williams. I still believe in Caleb long term. I certainly believe in Penix long term. This is a prime position to start Penix. It is. Tampa Bay beating the Raiders 28-13. I was thinking Vegas would get me that cover with those 3 turnovers on Baker Mayfield. Alas, it's not coming to pass. Prayers for Aiden O'Connell. Season-ending leg injury sucks. Feel bad for the kid. For the Buccaneers, again, Baker Mayfield, 3 touchdowns, 3 turnovers, but again, Vegas is not very good. The Buccaneers, 3-game winning streak. They are now first place in an NFC South that they have kind of dominated for the last 4 seasons, or last 5 seasons, really. This will be, if they win the division this year, this will be 4 seasons in a row. But kudos to the Bucs. Take care of business. Who they got next week? Tampa's got the Chargers. Interesting. At LA, too. That will be a very fascinating game, to say the least. Eagles just skating by Carolina. So here's what I'll say about this game. I've been on this train for a while. I think folks are maybe now starting to catch up. Carolina's playing pretty good football right now. Like, listen, they're 3-10. They're going to have a high draft pick. We get that. But Bryce Young is moving well. Bryce Young is making throws on the run. Bryce Young is making throws from the pocket. Like, Bryce is starting to kind of come in his own. Again, you look at the stat sheet and you're like, pass rating of 69, 191 yards, a touchdown and a pick. But just watch the tape. He's moving better. He seems more confident, comfortable. Like, again, I'm not going to act like I'm a body language doctor, but just prior to him getting benched midseason, you would watch Bryce Young last year and this year be like, God, this kid he looks in over his head. He looks nervous. He's cool. He's calm. He's composed. He's got a good connection with that Leggett kid. Okay. They've got I think Canales is a really smart head coach. There's something here. So you're going to use these last 4 games like you've been using the last 4 or 5 games. Build what you got. Maybe win a game or 2 And then go into next season, you feel good about yourself. You feel good about Bryce Young going into year 3 with continuity on the coaching staff and on the offense. Adam Thielen is still productive. Carolina's got things to feel good about. With that said, this should not have been a close game. They're not, obviously, they shouldn't be able to hang with Philly. Now, it's the NFL, so games are going to be close. That's the thing about the NFL. It makes it so great. Most of these games are close. They just are. I thought Dan Orlovsky on ESPN hit the nail on the head when describing the Philadelphia Eagles offense. Passing game. Schematically speaking. He said they're elementary. Is that there's not a lot of trickery. There's not a lot of creativity. It's just kind of Jalen Hurts drop back, throw to A.J. Brown. Well, if only someone said this before the year started about how Philly's offensive coordinator was with Dak Prescott, who prior to Dak having a down year this year, let's call it a full season for Dak Prescott. Dak had the worst year of his career in 2022 with Philly's offensive coordinator. And then Justin Herbert came back and he had the worst season of his career with this offensive coordinator. And Jalen Hurts has actually been, his numbers are solid this year. But in general, Jalen hasn't looked quite the way he looked a couple of years ago when he nearly won league MVP. It's almost like Kellen Moore ain't that good. It's almost like the play calling at the end of this game. And so we can blame Nick Sirianni, and I've done plenty of that. This is a Kellen Moore game for Philadelphia. Not getting the ball to Saquon Barkley late, putting yourself in a position where Carolina gets the ball back to begin with. Now, fortunately for Philly, you've got one of the best defenses in football. You can get a stop when Carolina's backed up at their own 2. Great. Fangio's done an amazing job with that side of the ball. And Philly's still an elite team, don't get me wrong. But you're starting to see, and by the way, A.J. Brown, after the game, taking some not so thinly veiled shots at Jalen Hurts. And if you're Jalen Hurts, it's, AJ, what am I working with here in terms of play calling? Like, this guy won't give Saquon the ball. This guy's the route concepts he draws up aren't terribly creative. Listen, Philly's going to run away with the NFC East. Absolutely. I'll say this: Philly is a 5.5-point favorite at home against Pittsburgh. Don't know about that. Now, maybe Philly's pissed off and they're going to come out and try and show the world something. Big game on Fox against the Steelers. Maybe. I don't know. I just don't. By the way, right now for Philly, they finished with the Cowboys and the Giants, and then before that, they got my Steelers and then Washington. They should be in a prime position to where they can, finish 14-3, 13-4. I don't even put much of this game on Sirianni, to be honest. I as much as I criticize him, as much as I don't think he's a good coach, that's a Kellen Moore thing. The play calling at the end was just odd. The route concepts. This is why I've said all year long, Philly's defense is great because of a great coaching staff. Now, they've got talent. I'm not like Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, but that's a more than anything, it's 80-20 coaching talent with Philly's defense. Like, Fangio has done an awesome job with Philly's defense. Offensively, it's 90-10. Talent to coaching. You can't not be a good offense with Hurts, Saquon, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, the offensive line. You can't not be a great offense. But I'm seeing cracks. The game against the Rams, some of the fourth down calls by Sirianni, same with Jacksonville. In this game, I'm seeing the poor play calling by Kellen Moore. Listen, if Philly's going to win the Super Bowl, and they can do that, they're going to have to win kind of like Pittsburgh and Kansas City, where it's, boy, when the offense is down, defense is going to have to really step up. Maybe force a turnover or two. Offense too darn talented not to be good. It's just not. It's too good to be doing what it's doing, and that's on Kellen Moore. Patrick, well, I've said time and time again, this is good. Kellen-less play calling will doom Philly. Non-creativity, very vanilla, and body language is starting to show. Here we go, 2023 all over again. Maybe I'll say this. You say 2023 all over again. If they go on to lose to Pittsburgh, okay, I think today the Steelers are better than Philly. I do. They lose to Pittsburgh, okay, we've won, 9 straight games in a row, something like that. 9 straight, like that. Philly's been on a roll. It happens. The streak's going to break eventually. But then if they slip up against Washington, who's a good team, maybe a playoff team, but like Philly's better than Washington, took care of business last time they faced them, then those old ghosts are going to start to come back where it's, you did this at the end of last year. Now, last year, the difference in this year and last year is last year, the defense might have been the worst in football, and Saquon Barkley wasn't there. So you have that to lean on if you're an Eagles fan. Chances are that's not going to repeat. If it does, look at the A.J. Brown comments about Jalen Hurts after the game as like the flashpoint moment when the season turned the other way. That's what I would say. What are the games we have in the NFL yesterday in Week 14? We had again, another game I just to be honest with you guys, flat out didn't watch. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. Somehow, some way, Will Levis found a way to play worse than Mac Jones. I didn't think it was possible, but for a guy of Will Levis's approach, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, Jacksonville wins 10-6 with Mac Jones going for 220 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, QBR of 32, passer rating of 66. And Jacksonville won because Will Levis is objectively awful. I mean, again, he's bad. Maturity problems, I've been right on that thing all along. Like, the kid just doesn't have it between the years. He just doesn't. Maybe he will as time goes on. Baker Mayfield matured. I don't see it. And by the way, Baker was far more talented than this kid coming out of college. Accuracy, kind of a clutch gene that Will Levis doesn't have. Like, Baker was, I had questions about Baker. Baker was, Patrick, Whack Jones still playing? It's hard telling. He wasn't very good. Jets. Listen, Dolphins beat the Jets. I did mention this earlier. The Jets for the 14th consecutive season out of playoff contention. Well, who could have seen this coming? I remember saying, go back and look at the video. December 2023. I remember talking about these same Jets last December. Remember I don't know, folks may not remember this game. It was Joe Flacco's kind of coming out party in his brief stint with the Browns. Cleveland blew out the Jets on Thursday Night Football, eliminated the Jets from playoff contention. And I said, the Jets will be more disappointing in 2024 than 2023 because the expectations will be higher with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. As it turned out, not only was it more disappointing because the expectations were higher, it was more disappointing because they were worse. Now, Aaron Rodgers actually, they didn't lose that game because Aaron. Aaron was actually, that was his best game of the year, okay? How about Aaron Rodgers? 27-39, 339 yards passing, which you saw in the montage we did with Barry. It is his first 300-yard passing game since Week 14 of the 2021 season. And of course, we did the thing with the quarterbacks who have thrown for 300 more recently. We may do that just one more time for good measure. QBR of 73, passer rating 104, no turnovers and a touchdown. Aaron was great. Got no qualms with how Aaron Rodgers played. The Jets didn't turn the ball over, but they couldn't get a stop late. Wonder why they couldn't get a stop late. Maybe because as flawed as Robert Saleh is, he was the best coach on their staff. Shouldn't have fired him when they did, but that was Aaron's call. So in a weird way, Aaron did cost them that game yesterday by pushing Saleh out the back door. Now, again, I want to be abundantly clear. I don't think Robert Saleh is a very good head coach. We have a lot of evidence to say that he's not that good. Man can coach defense. Ask San Francisco 49ers fans. That man can coach defense. Not a good move. You know what? Let's get out of here. Just leaving a good note with the Jets. Miami won. They're not going to make the playoffs. Let's go back over the list one more time for good measure. Excuse me. The quarterbacks who have thrown for 300 yards. Let me rephrase that. The quarterbacks who threw for 300 yards in between Aaron Rodgers' second to last 300-yard game and his most recent 300-yard game, who threw for 300 yards in the middle. One more time for good measure. Go. Andy Dalton to start the list. Bailey Zappi. Is Bailey Zappi on a team right now? Baker Mayfield has done it. Brock was amazing, by the way, yesterday. Bryce Young, who's coming on, did it. CJ Stroud, his draft contemporary, has done it. Caleb Williams, bad day at the office, he's done it. Carson Wentz, who's Mahomes' backup, has done it, as has Dak Prescott. Daniel Jones, who's on the Vikings now. Davis Mills did it more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Derek Carr did it. Desmond Ridder did it. Gardner Minshew did it. Geno Smith did it. Who else we got in the list? Jacoby Brissett now. Drake May's backup. Jake Browning, who is Joe Burrow's backup. Jalen Hurts. Jameis Winston, of course. He threw for almost 500 recently. Jared Goff and Jarrett Stidham. And Jimmy Garoppolo has threw for 300 yards in between Aaron Rodgers' recent 300-yard games. Joe Flacco, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Josh Allen, of course. How great was he yesterday? Josh Johnson, who's been everywhere, man, like Johnny Cash, Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Kenny Pickett has done it more in that the span of Aaron Rodgers' 300-yard games. Kirk Cousins, who might be more washed than Aaron, so is Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Mac Jones. Matt Ryan, who's been retired for 2 years. Matt Stafford, who's still amazing. Mike White, not sure if he's on a team. Nick Mullins, the same can be said. PJ Walker as well. Patrick Mahomes, the best. Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited. Ryan Tannehill, who should be employed. Sam Darnold, who might be a sneaky MVP candidate. Sam Howell, who's a backup. Teddy Bridgewater, who's been retired. Tom Brady, been retired for 2 years. Trevor Lawrence, get well soon, my man. Tua Tagovailoa has done it, as has Tyrod Taylor, as has a number of guys such as Will Levis and Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix has done it, as has Jaden Daniels and Cooper Rush, and rounding out the list, get well soon, Aiden O'Connell. The guys who have done it within the span of Aaron Rodgers' last 2 300-yard passing games, those guys all threw for 300. But the Jets should bring him back. Have at it. Go through another season of chaos. You guys are good at that. Patrick, New York Paper Planes fired their head coach. Did that solve anything? Defense went to shambles. And they were a top 5 defense before they fired him, too. So for Saleh's flaws, he can coach defense. What else happened in the NFL yesterday? Seahawks throttled Arizona. I'll tell you what, I bought into this Cardinals team a little bit as like a fun playoff team, and I said before the year they'd be the best 4-win team in NFL history. They'd be fun. They'd be exciting. They've obviously surpassed that, but Kyler's decision-making went in the tank. Kyler Murray is like a shorter Aaron Rodgers, shorter and not as talented Aaron Rodgers, in that when things start rough, he's gone. I don't know what happens to this guy, but it's just, he goes in the tank. I've always been okay. I should say fond of Kyler. I've always been like, yeah, he's really talented. He's going to win you games. He's Arizona can't do better than Kyler Murray because they just don't have a history of doing so. But see, I'll tell you what, Seattle 8-5, they're on a roll. I'll tell you what, there are like 8 coaches. You can make a case for coach of the year. Like Mike McDonald's not going to win the award. I mean, if you want to know how important Mike McDonald is, look at the Ravens defense since he left. Look at the Seahawks. I mean, Pete Carroll's a legend, Hall of Famer, all of that, Super Bowl champion. The team looks better with McDonald than Carroll, and it's mostly the same guys. So kudos to Seattle. Listen, I still think the Rams are going to run them down for the division. By the way, they play in Week 18. That could very well be the last sort of, that they could flex that game as Sunday Night Football. That could decide the NFC West because Arizona's falling apart. Don't buy the Niners, who, by the way, the Niners, kudos to them, just annihilated the Chicago Bears. Brock Purdy was nothing short of exceptional. 20 of 25, 325, 2 passing touchdowns, QBR 0 to 100 of 9-7. And a pass rating of 145.4. Brock Purdy was really, really good. I still stand by my Brock Purdy comments, by the way, about the Niners paying him. That would not be a smart decision at all. It shows you how bad the Bears are that Thomas Brown, the Gerald Ford of the NFL, not elected vice president or president, but served in both positions, not hired as the OC or head coach, serving in both positions this season. Interims tend to infuse a new level of urgency in the building. And the fact that that's not the case right now with Chicago, 4 yards of offense at the half. Bash Caleb, have at it. But knock yourself out. Say Caleb's the problem. If they don't hit on this coach, this is going to be Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. It's going to be like bad offensive line, questionable coaching, bad front office, cheap as heck ownership. Yeah, this could go south quickly in the next couple of years for the Chicago Bears. After I thought they fleeced Carolina, still do. Still think they fleeced Carolina and be able to land Caleb Williams. because I think he's a generational talent. I absolutely still feel that way. But even the best need structure. Even the best need a certain level of coaching around them to get them to the next level. They better hit on their coach. Let's put it that way, or it will get ugly quickly. As for the Niners, I mean, now Garendo got hurt. Like they're cooked. And then we talked about the Bills and Rams and the Chiefs Chargers. Okay, before we get out of here, we've got a game tonight. And actually, at one point, it's going to be, not one point, throughout the game, it's going to be broadcast on Disney+. There's like an alternate Simpsons broadcast, apparently, for this. But we've got the Cowboys. Okay, so the graphic I put up and where I set the number to make the prediction on is 5.5. The Bengals are favored in this game, -5.5. But I'm looking at ESPN right now, about 2.5 hours prior to kickoff. The lines come down to Bengals -4.5. So that tells you a lot of people like the Dallas Cowboys as underdogs. So listen, Cincinnati's favored. Listen, did you ever think you'd see a spot where Joe Burrow is playing maybe the best football of his life since 2019 LSU? Dak Prescott goes down for the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy might get fired. It's a mess in Dallas, and they have a better record than the Bengals. That just goes to show you the ineptitude of the Bengals defense, which might be the worst in football. Zach Taylor on the hot seat, all that. It's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and not much else. Listen, Dallas is actually trying to prepare. Last time they played was Thanksgiving, so I imagine their bellies have settled from their turkey dinner that night. Cooper Rush played solid, played admirably. I don't think he turned the ball over against the Giants. Rico Dowdle ran the football well, but again, that's the Giants. Although, these are the Bengals. Okay, if you ask me, Bryson, you want the Giants defense, Bengals defense? I'm like, well, at least the Giants have an elite D-line. Give me the Giants. Cincinnati's defense can't stop a nosebleed. Like, Russell Wilson's playing really well. The Steelers offense is officially back. 44 points is a lot on the road in an AFC North divisional game and a team that knows you. Cincinnati can't stop anything. I'm still at the end of the day going to say, okay, it is still Joe Burrow. The Bengals are in a situation where just to have a prayer's chance, and they're not going to get in, but a prayer's chance to get in the playoffs, they have to win every single game and get a lot of help ahead of them. Joe Burrow's a competitor. Jamar Chase, competitor. These guys aren't going anywhere. I'll give Bengals respect to at least win this game. Give me the Bengals close. They do cover, but close, 28-20 over the Dallas Cowboys. It's a one-score game. Dallas will get theirs, but I can see a spot where they move the ball well, but penalties or turnovers cost them. But Cincinnati wins this game 28-20 over the Dallas Cowboys. Keeps their season, I guess, alive, but at 5-8, when the 7 seed has 8 wins with 4 games left, like your chances are pretty darn thin the rest of the season. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. Not many, but stranger things have happened. Give me Cincinnati over Dallas 28-20. I will say, if Dallas wins this game, it's probably going to be a Micah Parsons game. Because as much as I bash Micah Parsons, I think he's a situationally great player in the sense that if Micah's got the advantage, he's going to absolutely wreck the game. I mean, against the Giants, Micah Parsons was out of this world great. He's the best player on the field. But against the elite left tackles like a Trent Williams and others, not the same player. If he gets 2 sacks on Joe Burrow, I will not be surprised. Like, this is a game tailor-made for Micah Parsons. There's no question about that. Totally agree with you in the comments, by the way, Kyle. God bless. Love it. All day long. All right, that's all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by, as always. Big shout-out, Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. Please go subscribe to his show. Great stuff, as always. I know he is obviously very, very excited that the Mets landed Juan Soto. Who knows? We could be here 10 months from now talking about a Mets championship. I'd much rather be talking about a Red Sox championship. But hey, Mets, enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's how it is, okay? So we both have the Yankees. So the Yankees not landing Juan Soto, good day. Would have loved for him to come to Boston, but I never was going to get my hopes too high. I always felt that it was going to be the Mets. But thanks so much to Barry for coming on the show, and hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future. But be sure to check out Carving Up Live on Wednesday, back to our normally scheduled time at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there, and it will help the channel grow exponentially. Just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. You can find us at the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. And we've got all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's December 9th. College football playoff going to start next weekend. Man, oh man, Tennessee, Ohio State. Are you kidding me? Could it get any better than that? It should be in Neyland, but if it's in the Horseshoe, that's okay. Tennessee's not scared. Tennessee's got some matchup advantages. Hard-fought game, close game, no doubt about it. But we're going to have a lively Vol View. No, probably not going to be a Vol View this week, but Vol View next Friday, oh, you better believe it. It's going to be fun. All right, we will see you guys on Wednesday. Please be sure to take care of yourself and to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that affects every single one of us on a day-to-day basis in this country as American citizens. And no matter what anybody tries to tell you, oh, it's not a problem. Oh, there's only one solution to the problem. Both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that needs a number of detailed, nuanced solutions to solve it. So let's make our voices heard and make sure we're safe as humanly possible in this great country and maintain the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right. See you on Wednesday. Talk Bengals, Cowboys, maybe some more college football, NBA. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe we'll have a Jerry Jones quote. Maybe we'll have that. I don't know. But should be a fun show. Bryce's Best 10, carving up the context, all of our Wednesday specials. Stay tuned for that. 8 o'clock spot, by the way, tomorrow night, Grid Network, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Tune in for that. Best game show in sports. Grid Network, once again, tomorrow night, the 8 o'clock spot at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night. All right. We will see you guys next week. Next week. We will see you guys on Wednesday back on Carving Up Live. Stay safe out there, everybody. God bless y'all. Peace out. What happened, Big Poppy?
The Yankees lose.
Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.